Alrighty, week 3 and JavaScript. So I finished grading your first learn together, and I saw a variety of outputs, which was good. I saw and here's what can be, and I think I saw a comment about this, is that when you compare your code to other people, that that can be both good and not so good, right? Because people bring different skills into a class like this. What's important is for you to stretch yourself, like, take a first stab at some code to accomplish your concept and then come back around. And this is where, allowing yourself enough time with work like this is really important. And when you give yourself enough time, because it's a very common thing that I do, that I write some code, I get it working the way I want to, I set it aside, and I come back to it maybe a couple hours, maybe the next day, and I see it with fresh eyes, right? And so that process I find to be really important, right? And you have to figure out what works for you. And I get that there's a lot of demands on your time. So this is just one of them, that in life, managing the things that need our attention or that we're trying to build a skill for. I mean, there's just no subverting a process, because we each have to figure out what works for us based on all those things, demands, our focus. And that's the other thing, is like having good focus. It's really doing coding has really helped me with this, is, being able to focus in on something, and the more I can focus, the better, of course, I can create something. So anyway, this was your first experience at doing that, and what was great, and I recommend this ongoing basis of coming to talk to me, because in talking to me about your concept, so I read about some of the things that you're thinking of creating, right? And so what I can do is you and I can have a conversation about, okay, here's the thing I want to accomplish. I know what it is you're going to learn, and we can help you maybe come up with either something that works in the context of this class so that you can actually be successful, right? So coming to office hours, I think, right? And I hope that you've seen this, is like, if you ask for something like yesterday, I don't think Vivian would mind me asking, she was having a bit of a problem running some code. And so I happened to be online at that time. So when am I online? Well, it generally is from around 7 until around 6. So sometimes it could be a little earlier, but generally after 6, you're not going to see me around, just because my life is set up to have family time in the evening, and, I work out in the morning. But my point about that is that's also why Discord is there. So in case I'm not, and even if I am, having conversations with each other is important. Now, having said that, my first ask of you for this attendance is, please make sure and go check this to make sure you're in the right channel. Like, you are taking CIT93FA20, right? So make sure, and I'm just going to get over here just for a second. Actually, I was looking at something I was trying to figure out, but make sure you're only in the channel for the class that you're in, because Rob mentioned this, and Rob, I appreciate your feedback about this. And actually, I think somebody else, I can't remember who it was. And that's the other thing, is your names on Discord sometimes make it hard for me to know who you actually are. So some of you will tell me this is my name, right? Because your Discords can be varied, is probably the wrong word here. So first, are you in the right channel? Check that. Let me know. And if you are in other channels, please drop out of them. Or if you like the noise, if you just want to listen, that's cool too. But just make sure when you're posting into the right one, right? And consider, right, when you're posting, right? And it's really okay to if you're having problems with code, is to post code out there, or in general what your question is. But just know that your time of when you're working and my time may not line up. So you just kind of have to think about that. Okay. So here's the other thing. Like we're moving into, I actually looked at the schedule. I realized there were a couple things off on our kind of overall schedule. So we're coming into week 3. In week 6, let's see if that works. In week 6, you have your first dev project, okay, to where you're actually going to create something. And I will start talking about that. You'll hear me talk about that in the Learn Togethers. So, and the other thing, and here's my other question for you. Like I am rolling some content from last semester for this class because in general it worked really well. But I kind of see now, based on matter of fact, I think Brian was asking me this. He's like, when you were coding up something last night, that was one part of the assignment. The other part of the assignment was to actually think about what you wanted to create. And I think it got a little confusing because some of you actually started coding based on what we've learned, the thing you're going to ultimately create, but you still needed to write about it. Okay. So that kind of feedback. So if you're working ahead, it's really beneficial asking me clarifying questions so then I can note that as well. So the other thing is you did have 2 replies due to last night. And most of you didn't seem to have any problem with posting your code. I think I did have one person have a little bit of a problem with doing the Git process that ended up deleting their code. But for the most part, it seems like you've adjusted to the Git process. One thing that's hanging over from some of the stuff from week 1 was about the Git Ignore. So the Git Ignore we are using for this class for 2 purposes. First is because here's the deal. There are some files in your local repo that you don't want on GitHub. And you might wonder why. As you do more development, this becomes more and more an issue, right? So even though I'm not teaching Node this class, that's the best one I can think of. And Node, and actually in this class too, there are some things like Live Server that I've installed and some other things that you actually do an npm install to accomplish. And so what that does is in that Node module directory, that is installed into there. And so you don't want that folder pushed or then placed onto GitHub. So we use the Git Ignore to say, these files in my repo, you're going to see them. I don't want you to track them for varying reasons. VS Code settings make sense. But again, as you do more development, you'll see more of this stuff that won't make sense to put out there. Okay. So that was one thing I needed to, and I don't know if that helps, but you're just, so if you have a specific question about Git Ignore that I didn't cover, right? That's the other thing about this week is that you could do in your attendance. So here's the thing I wanted to say too. I know that section 3 for the Udemy course was long. I get it. And I really struggled when I put this schedule together based on where I wanted us to end up, that I knew we'd have a couple of big weeks. So the good news is, as we come into week 3, which is section 4 is, I was looking at this, I'm like, oh, I know that was a lot. So this is a little smaller section and writing functions, right? So we're going to learn how to write functions to allow us to reuse code. There's just a lot of, and understanding some more of the primitives in JavaScript, undefined and null, passing multiple arguments, default arguments, scopes, template strings. From this point on, once you learn template strings, don't use regular concatenation where you've used that before, where you on the console, you do that. So great content, but that's what we have this week. And then Learn Together is already up for week 3 as well. I think I'm going to release week 4. I was looking at it today. Right. So in week 3, in our Learn Together, I'm actually going to have us start using JavaScript with HTML sooner than Andrew does in the course, because one of the bits of feedback I'd gotten that we needed to push that process up a little bit. And so I'm doing that this week, and I show you how to output stuff to the page and also how to connect. And then we use a site called GitHack to actually run code. So this is the other benefit of doing this, is that, and you're going to know this, especially on your week 3 Learn Together, is you need to make sure when you're writing and submitting code, in this case, that it works, like, and you don't have any syntax errors, right? So there's one thing is make sure there's no errors on the console. And I introduced you to the concept of Chrome developer tools are just, and true, Firefoxes are good too. I mean, most modern browsers, all modern browsers have a good, these days, set of development tools. I just happen to I think most people I talk to use Chrome, so it's the one I use as well. But you're going to write some functions this week, okay? And I'm going to give you an example and also teach you about how to see things in Chrome DevTools so you can walk through your code. So that's what you have to look forward to. And then I was trying to think. So know that will impact your grade next week, right? If you have errors on there, and making sure that you follow what I want you to do, because I'm actually having you write 2 functions, and then I believe I'm having you pass. Yeah. So I'm attempting to have your second function use the result of the first, but I go over this, and so I don't think I need to do that again, right? So now that I've gone over that, is there anything else you wanted me to chat about, right? Please come talk to me in office hours. I've already said it. Please join. If you're not on the right channel for Discord, please either get off the other ones if you don't want to hear it, or make sure you're on the right ones for this course. And the last thing is, and I think it was Chris also that mentioned this, or it was somebody else, join Discord. If you're not on Discord, come join it, right? Because it really is helpful to have more of you on it to be able to interact. Because trust me, programming is not done completely in isolation. It is done with teams. And the more you can ask and interact, and Rob has been just doing an awesome job in this case. So thank you, Rob, for all the help you provide the students. It's very much appreciated, I believe. I know it is by me, and I suspect by them based on their replies. So, and anybody else that's provided help as well, right? So that's the idea of building a community here. All right, end of week 2, start of week 3. Ooh. Let's have a good one. Have a great week. Bye.